Welcome to Midlife Unplugged, the fuck it years. I'm your host, Lara Portelli. This is the space where we strip away the polite BS, rip the gloves off and get real about what it means to thrive in our second act. Each week, I'm joined by a guest who's walking their own bodacious midlife path. We're talking menopause, divorce, reinvention, and everything in between. Buckle up, because this isn't your mother's midlife crisis. This is Midlife Unplugged. Welcome back to Midlife Unplugged, the fuck it years, with me, your host, Lara Portelli. And I'd also like to introduce our amazing guest this afternoon or her evening, all the way from Philadelphia, America. Say hello to our wonderful Grace Williams. Grace has so much to chat to us today about loving your vibes or loving those vibes. And I'm really keen to unpack some of her life experiences because, as you know, our TV show is all about midlife and, you know, unplugged, for want of a better term, and fuck it. I'm not putting up with anything anymore that I don't need to. And I think women get to a certain age where we don't need to, we don't want to, and we're not unhappy or shy to speak out and say this doesn't suit us anymore. So with that being said, let me hand over to Grace for her to tell us a little bit about herself, firstly, and then we'll jump into some questions. Over to you, Grace.
Lara, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you welcoming me into your space like this. I am what I call a former survivor who has learned to love herself and thrive. And it looks a lot different than I might have ever thought it did on the surviving side of it. And I'm loving life. And as we talked about, you know, I never said the word fuck until I probably was close to my 35, 40 years old.
Wow. That in itself is amazing. So let's unpack a little bit about, I know one of the questions that we said, you know, tell us about your fuck it moment. And for you, it was quite profound after a family function, wasn't it? You were packing up after a family function. Something profound happened for you in that moment. And that's how it happens for a lot of us women. Something profound. Sometimes it's not just it doesn't have to be a big lead up and a big hoo-ha. Something happened to you in a moment where you're packing up from a birthday party. Is that correct, Grace?
Yes. So our children are just a year apart, like a year and days apart. So while they were little, we had a combined birthday party for them and held it at my mom's house and, you know, did all the things, all the hustle that you do to get ready for something like that. And we had just finished cleaning up. The guests were mostly gone. And I had that moment where, you know, you put the dish towel down and you're ready to go relax and snuggle with the babies after they've had all their fun. And I turned around and in my mom's little dining room, her house was quite small. There was an ice cream cake that said happy 40th birthday on it. So my birthday is in July. This was the end of September. My kids' birthdays are in September. And it was just like what in the world? Like, whose birthday? What, like, in my mind, I was like, what is this even? And my sister, who's a few years older than I am, was standing on the other side of the room and went, I'm sorry, she made me do it. So apparently during the party, my mom sent my sister out to pick up an ice cream cake for my 40th birthday, almost 3 months behind schedule. And it was a moment where I realized that, like, nobody's doing this for me. Nobody's going to celebrate me. Nobody's going to make me feel special. And it was an attempt, but it was such a feeble attempt. And I love my mom. God rest her soul. She was a beautiful woman, but clearly she completely missed who I was and what I needed. And that was a moment where I realized who I was and what I needed. And it wasn't like a moment of an epiphany. It was looking back years later as I was healing and growing, realizing how much that moment jumped out and was such a huge impact in my journey to healing and really stepping into self-love.
Love it. And I love how you were saying that no one's coming to rescue you, right? And, it's such an overused analogy, but it's true. You have to put your own mask on the plane, right? Before you can rescue other people. And I love how you recognize that. And hang on a minute, my birthday was 3 months ago.
Right.
And I don't particularly have a liking for ice cream cake.
Right.
Yes. And that was your fuck at moment, right? Like, ice cream cake. What? That was 3 months ago. But yes, I appreciate mum trying, but important here. My birthday was 3 months ago. And I love that.
Yeah, it was very much like, and the piece of the ice cream cake was like, I hated it when I was a kid. I didn't love it. And as an adult, I was just like, I don't even like this kind of cake. I'm not eating. Like as a kid, I would have just eaten it, right? Because that's kind of what you do as a kid a lot of times. As an adult, I was like, I don't even want to eat it.
I know.
So I just kind of cut a piece, stuck it in a little bag, and was like, we're going to go home now.
And it goes back to that, what I was saying on the introduction of, we get to an age where I'm just not willing to put up with this anymore. The bad service, the it'll do. I've done a bit of work around, myself on the way to the church to get married. And I knew I was doing this will do. And we don't have to do this will do. So I love that. I love that you in that moment, you just knew. And tell us, Grace, about Love Those Vibes and beautiful boxes that you do for people. Was that born out of that ice cream cake moment as well, or was that a bit later? Or
it came quite a bit later. So it came probably 8 years later. The thought came to me, and I had a little what I call my little side gig that was, selling nail polish through a bigger company, and I enjoyed doing it, and it made a few extra dollars and paid for things that, kind of offset family expenses. And I was just taking an inexpensive 5-day workshop online to improve something I was doing for my clients. And in the middle of that, I was like, oh, I was doing little subscriptions for them. And it wasn't something that the company did. It was just something I created because I thought it was fun and I wanted to improve it. And about, I would say on the third of the 5 sessions, it was like a light bulb moment. And I was like, women of the world need a self-love subscription box. And then I kind of looked around myself like that. No, we're not going to do that. We're busy. We have enough on our plate. And so at the time I was also working with a small group coaching, and I was like, they're going to tell me this is the dumbest idea I've ever had. And so later that week when we had our usual call, I got on it and they were like, that really tracks. That sounds like the next logical step. And I was like, fuck, because now it was something that was born out of me. And at the time I still needed someone outside of me to validate it. And they did. And then I was like, okay, we're going to figure out how to do this. And that's how Love Those Vibes was born.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, that you were saying about, and I still do it too. What do you think about this idea? We just need that someone to say, oh, yeah, that's a good idea, Lara, or no, that's tough. Don't do that. Or, but why? Like, if I want to do it, I'm just going to do it. And if I fall flat on my face, well, I do, right? But somewhere we still need that bit of validation. So,
and that's where it was. I couldn't hear myself say yes, but I also couldn't even hear myself arguing to go, no, I don't know if this is a great idea. Like, it didn't matter which side of the debate I was on. I wasn't quite ready to be the one who decided for myself. I still had to hear that somebody else thought it was a bad idea or a good idea.
Yeah. I did a keynote speech a little bit earlier this year, and I wrote a quote for the end of the keynote speech. And it was, the best day of her life was when she discovered her voice and she never turned the volume down again, because I just love that just then you said you couldn't hear yourself, even the debate. We're just voiceless for, a big part of our lives. which leads me, I love this. One of the questions that was in the application, and it's, what's something you've done or said in midlife that your younger self would never have done? I would never have dared, pardon me. And yours was a fuck. I know it's not a word of wisdom, but it's the perfect filler. Let us know a bit more, because just before we jumped on, you were telling me about you hadn't used the word.
I really
What was
hadn't.
the background around that?
I grew up in a very religious household, so there was no curse words were acceptable at all. And even like alternatives weren't acceptable. So I just didn't use it. And I don't even remember when it became, but my kids kind of laugh. They're teenagers now, and they kind of, part of them laughs at me, but then the other part's like, really, Mom? But I said, look, I had a lot of years where I couldn't use these words, and now they just fit so perfectly sometimes. And I said, I actually went to a little shopping event yesterday, and the woman had a little jar of fucks. And they were all little wooden words that she carved out and burned. They were really cute. And the whole jar was only so tiny. But, so many things in my life were taboo for so long that when you just think about the word, when you think about the ridiculousness of most words that people consider curse words or bad words or, things like that, most of them kind of are silly and ridiculous. And we put this heavy meaning on them. But really, when you use them and you plant them right where they belong, the silliness kind of breaks up the heaviness. You know what I mean? When you're in the middle of something frustrated, sometimes fuck just works. It's just as simple as that. And it doesn't even need to mean anything bigger than that. And I think for my whole life, so much weight was put on, what a word actually means versus just say what comes to mind sometimes.
I love that. I totally agree with the idea that sometimes there's nothing better than a well-timed just get fucked or fuck off. I'm not doing that.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to use it every second word, of course.
Right.
But,
right.
If as you were just saying, Grace, if it's something that needs to be said in that moment, we don't need to put, our whole life on it, or, it's just a passing word like any other word.
Right.
So the other thing I wanted to really talk to you about, which I know, including myself, but I want to hear your perspective on it and so many other women's perspective on this, is the religious and generational upbringing. And it's a lot to unpack. It's heavy when we talk about heavy and, words and things. And I don't know if break free is the right word, but I guess we get to, again, maybe middle age, maybe before, maybe, some people rebel, some people don't, some people go through their whole life with it. What was the turning point for you, Grace, when you began to unpack your upbringing or generational religious, not baggage, experience?
Baggage works.
Baggage works for you?
Baggage and experience. Yeah. I think for me, when I realized that I had landed myself in an abusive marriage and was very much repeating the patterns of my parents. My father was abusive to my mother. While I don't recall it, he left when I was very young. My siblings do. I've heard stories. And I realized that I was repeating that pattern by being in a marriage with someone who was abusing me. And that wasn't so much when I unpacked the religious teachings that kind of led me to that space, because I truly believe that the religious teachings I was under really did lead me to that space. It was when I reached out for help to my religious community. And what I got was more of, in my mind, right? I was sort of the one in the marriage trying to do the right thing. I was trying to be the supportive wife, trying to whatever. And it was almost like more of, you just keep doing that, and not a moment of, wow, this must be really difficult for you. But it was almost like, well, no, you must not be doing enough of that. And I was like, no, I had poured every bit of myself into trying to be in a healthy relationship, which I didn't know how to be at the time. I poured so much of myself into that I couldn't possibly find a way to pour more. And so it was really that of like, no, this can't be right, because I've literally done all the things that I could possibly do to make this right. And it's still not working. It's still coming back and harming me. And I couldn't sit under religious teaching and really mesh that with just my own innate desire to be safe, you know?
Yeah.
So that's really where my journey started.
Yeah, I like that, because, you know, again, to be brought up, do unto others as you have them do unto you. Forgive, forget.
Yeah.
Oh, he's just in a cranky mood today. You know, for myself, I was in a toxic relationship for the best part of 24 years, and I kept saying that we'll get better. Remember your vows. I was one for remember your vows. Remember the promise you made. Remember the promise you made at that altar that day. Things have to get better. However, there is only so much hoping that you can do.
Yes.
You know, and again, you turn to the people closest to you, or the community, that you would hope that would support you. And it's, you're not the first to go through this. It's normal. It's just a phase he's going through. Chin up, shoulders back, big girl panties on. Excuse me, and through all those years, how many women are losing part of their identity?
So many.
Yeah. And
Losing part of it, just chipping away at their self-worth. If they even had it to begin with, because that's something that really, my worth was around how I could do and serve other people.
Absolutely.
So the basic self-worth wasn't even a topic that was broached. But for a woman who even grew up with, knowing her worth, how much it chips away at that. And it's heartbreaking, and it's so difficult, but so many women have dealt with it and are still dealing with it.
I love that, Grace. Like, as you're saying, for the woman that has got some self-worth, it gets eroded, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the time frame is for each individual woman.
Yeah.
But for when you've been brought up in a situation where you have zero self-worth to start with, because you're told that, that's a sin, go to confession, or go here or go there or whatever. There's nothing left to take from someone, because they have no feeling for themselves, and everything's just whatever is left is eroded. And I'll go next year, the house, what do I do about this, what do I do about that? A safety plan, so many women leave with just the clothes on their back, right? But
exactly.
I think, somewhere we need to do more, and, about education around it's not okay. It's not okay for someone to tread on your rights like that.
Right.
And, quite often, people that do impinge on other people's rights and think it's okay to bully people and take their freedoms or and their rights, they just think it's normal. That's just how but it's not right. It's just not right.
It's not. Right. And it's become too normalized, and it really, it's not normal. And it's, it's something that when I see a young woman in a relationship, we actually passed by something very like, I wasn't in a conversation. I overheard something at the market. And as we were leaving, I said to my husband, my radar goes off as soon as I hear certain things. And it's something that I want to teach. I've been teaching and my daughter and my son, this is the way you deserve to be treated. And this is the way that people should never treat you. And I recently, in the last year or so, I read something where they said, like, the quote was something along the lines of, we should be teaching our children their worth and their love, so much so that when they leave our homes and someone mistreats them, they immediately know something's wrong and they don't question it. They trust themselves because of it.
They trust that instinct, right?
Exactly.
Because after all, that gut instinct is there to protect us. It's
yes,
our guiding light. That's okay. That's okay. Let's talk a little bit more about your boxes, what's in them as we wrap up this afternoon.
Sure.
Tell me what's in them, because I'm excited to know, and because it's love those vibes, isn't it? The boxes.
It is. And, love those vibes.
Yep, and they were created. Although it's what we've been talking about this afternoon, correct?
Yes. So every box comes with something, a handful of items, usually about 4 or 5 items that help you treat yourself, play, have fun around a theme. And then every box comes with what I call self-love tools. And it's just a workbook that has a few exercises that the subscriber can take throughout the month that they get their box and kind of work through in little 5-minute increments, just a way to implement small actions to help build their self-love. What I call is like your tool chest or your toolbox, where, when you have a toolbox, you have things in there and you may not need them all every day, all the time, but when you need them, they're there and you know how to use them. And so my goal is to give them the tools to fill that box so that they have them when they need them. But also the piece that I struggled so much with, and I struggled with this as a single woman. I struggled with this as, in times where finances were perfect and felt beautiful, in times when finances were a struggle. As a parent, it didn't matter what time in my life, the idea of spending time and money to treat myself felt taboo and like something I shouldn't be doing. And so when I learned that, no, that's not the case, you actually should do that. As much as you love to treat the people you love, is how much you should be able to treat yourself too. And so once I started to realize that, I was like, I think sometimes we need a way to practice that. And so each box is designed to give you a few things to help you practice that. And I'll just share a couple of the ones from 2025 that I did. One was called Kick the Winter Blues. And so it had a fun tea tumbler that had inspiring messages on it. And it had loose leaf tea in various varieties and a steep, I don't know how to say the proper word, like a tea steeper. And then honey sticks. And the self-love tool was all around embracing that slowdown that happens in the wintertime and how nature itself slows down.
Wow. Yeah.
And we, as human beings, we tend to almost fight the slowdown. Like, if business is slow, something is wrong. If my calendar's not full and I'm not out socializing all the time, I must feel lonely. And no, it's okay. Embrace that slowdown. So that was the kind of focus there. And then another one that I loved was inspired. The funny thing is I was going one direction with it. And then I took a workshop, and I was so inspired by the message of the workshop that I took a complete different direction with the box. And it became Shed Your Winter Skin. And it was the spring box. And it was after kind of talking about the Lunar New Year, the Chinese New Year, and the significance of 2025, the year of I think it was the year of the wood snake, and how snakes shed their skin. And if they don't, that would be problematic for their livelihood. And it reminded me how much of like we hold on to things that really aren't serving us any longer. And it's okay to let them go. And that makes room for something else to come. And so everything in the box was about just literally shedding your skin and nurturing your actual skin. There was a dry brush in there, and like a little card with techniques on how to do that. I had a local woman make beautiful citrus scented body butter, things like that. So every box has a theme that like feeds your soul, but then you also get these items that you can kind of enjoy relaxing, treating yourself, playing. So it's a lot of fun to put them together. But I just love the idea of being able to bring women a tool that they can go, you know what? This is me learning how to nurture myself, because so often we're not really sure how to do it. And that's honestly because generations of women haven't known how to do it. And so how can you teach something you don't know? I mean, my mom didn't at all pause and take care of herself. Everything she did was for us to make sure we had what we needed. And it just seemed like she never took a day off. And it almost seemed like when she did get time off, she would get sick. Yeah. It was like her body would kind of shut down on her. She'd get a virus or a little cold or something. And we can't teach what we don't already know. So it's kind of my way of taking what I'm so grateful other people have been able to teach me and kind of share that out to other people in the world and teach them how to love and play and nurture themselves.
So good. So good. So many generations before us did not do that. And as you said, they fell in a heap. So I love that about, shedding the skin. And it's so good. It's what we need. It's what we need more of, right?
More of it.
Okay, Grace. All right, we're wrapping up. So that's another episode, wrapping up on Midlife Unplugged, the Fuck It Years with Lara Portelli. I'd like to thank our guest again, lovely Grace Williams. All her details will be in the episode. And I'd just like to thank you again, Grace, for your words of wisdom, and so how important it is that as women today that we learn kind of from the generations before us. I like what you said, because my grandmother would just go and go and go and go and go. And I think we've seen that generation after generation. But like you were saying too, we don't know what we don't know, and we need to learn. That's important too. So thank you so much, Grace, for your time this evening.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's it for now, people, and we'll be back on soon. That's a wrap on this episode of Midlife Unplugged, the Fuck It Years. If today's conversation lifts something up in you, hit subscribe, share it with your midlife crew, and keep the conversation going. I'm Lara Portelli. See you next week for another raw, real, and unapologetic chat.